We had a crazy storm last night. There was tornadoes all around us. I don't think anything touched down really that close to us, thankfully, but we had over 100-mile-per-hour winds, and there are trees down all over the place. I was driving during the worst of it, and there was down power lines everywhere, and I got to the end of our road here, and there was like 15 trees that fell across on our road alone, and I had to park at the end of our road, and I was sprinting through the wind and the rain, diving underneath trees, climbing over them. It was crazy, but I got back. We got really lucky and everything. Nothing really fell to the point where it was any danger to anyone, and our orchard is pretty much intact. There were a couple apple trees that got kind of pushed over, and I put them back up and got them staked. I got to stake one more here, and the grapes are the only thing that really had a rough go at it. They kind of got blown off their arbor, but I got them on. They're not perfectly positioned, but I feel like every time I move them I break some, so I don't know, I'm just gonna kind of let them find their way back to the arbor. That and like the onions and a lot of things were kind of just blown over, but all in all, for over 100-mile-per-hour winds, not too bad. The fence is up, all the trees look good, and there was only a couple that kind of got blown over, but like I said, I got them tilted back up in a position and got a stake on the ones that needed it. So really not too bad for how bad it could have been. Even everything in our garden looked all right. Even the tomatoes, they're just getting to the point where they're like a foot tall. They got blown around pretty good, but they still seem to be standing, look pretty healthy. I got them cleaned up, and I'm gonna get them clipped to the trellis pretty soon. The only real casualty is this Wolf River tree. This tree just can't catch a break. It's something my brother planted when we first started this orchard a long time ago, and he didn't really know what he was doing. He pruned it back like way too much, and so I had to overcome that. And when it was just getting healthy from that, we pruned it down a lot to get a tree tube on it, and that kind of stunted its growth a little bit. As soon as it kind of got back from that, we moved it out of the orchard into a new spot, and as soon as it was getting comfy in its new spot, this wind came through and just completely uprooted it. But I don't know, we got it back in place. It seems to be doing all right. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, that tree just can't catch a break. I hope it makes it. So yeah, it sucks that we have all these trees down. I haven't even been able to go back deep into our woods and really see the full extent of the damage that was caused. I've been walking around the first 10 acres of our 80-acre patch that we live on here, and there are trees everywhere. There has to be over 100 trees down in our property alone. So that sucks, and I'm gonna be getting back there and cleaning them up as the best I can. The only good news that really comes from this is I have a lot more material to use. There was some logs that I wasn't gonna turn into raised beds, but I'm gonna turn them into raised beds. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today, cutting up some logs, putting them in a position, because there has just been a lot that just fell over, and I'm going to be utilizing all of those, or at least a lot of them. Something else I plan on doing with the fallen trees is I want to cut some logs up and kind of line the perimeter of my blueberry patch. I want to line the perimeter so I can keep the grass off the fence and kind of give it a border, and I'm going to line the rows of blueberries that I had planted so I can chip in between the logs on the rows. I have 10 foot between each rows, and I want to put logs on each side of the blueberries and get wood chips on them. And then I'll just chip in between the rows as I get more chips. It's just hard to get chips out here living this remote. But maybe with how many trees got blown over yesterday, maybe I could get some chips, who knows. But anyway, that's what I'm gonna be doing. I have a lot more trees to use now, so I'm gonna be getting them cut up in the coming weeks and hopefully utilizing as much of the material as I can. But like I said, I'm gonna be making some raised beds out of these logs in my garden. There's one tree that when it was felled, it split down the middle. So there's a crack running through the first, I don't know, 10, 20 feet of it, somewhere in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the logs, and when they split into two, I'm gonna use those as the edge of a raised bed and put some logs in the ground to hold them in place. And the idea that we kind of have is once we dig the hole and put the logs in place to hold the halves of the logs in place for the edge of the raised beds, we're gonna dig down some Y branches and use them to hold the logs in place as well, and run some logs in between them for a trellis. And we have plans to utilize a lot of these sticks in our compost build that I'm gonna be doing this weekend. The next thing I'm doing is I'm getting our chicken coop and our composting system all set up, because our chicks are getting big. They're going to be out here before we know it, so I want to be ready for them when they reach that age. We're going to use 2x4s to frame out like a box, and we're going to put stakes in between the 2x4s to kind of be the wall of the composting system. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be really cool, and I'm utilizing material that we have on hand. I'm going to get down in the garden, and I'm going to get to work on those raised beds. So I'm in the area where we're gonna put our chickens. I'm putting the coop right over here. We have the structure in the back corner of this area here, and we're gonna make this one of our compost structures. We're gonna run 2x4s across, one in the front, one in the back, and we're gonna put sticks in between them to kind of make the bins for our compost. I wanna get this set up now because, like I said, all these trees have fell and are continuing to fall with this wind, and I wanna be able to utilize all the branches I'm gonna be taking out. For the roof, we're gonna be using some deck boards for my brother's tiny house. We had a deck up there and we took it apart last year, so we're gonna be using those boards for the roof. And the idea is to make a couple bins, and when the one pile gets finished, we'll fence it off and let the chickens move on to the next one. All right, these are looking good. They're good for now. Still needs a lot of work, but at least with where it's at now, I can get some branches in between here and start building these walls when I come across the right sized sticks. I'm gonna get back into the garden and continue working on these beds. Gonna try to get them done while I still have some light tonight.